Well, the crown slipped. A major data leak from China just outed Rolex's tightly held pricing playbook, and suddenly, the brand that practically invented waitlist flex found itself scrambling to cool down overheated prices. It's the kind of leak that doesn't just cause a stir, it fogs up the entire boutique window. Welcome back to Opulent Oasis. Today we're unpacking the data drop that made Rolex look less like a mystery and more like a markdown. What happened next? The grey market flinched, flippers panicked, and once untouchable models like the Submariner and Daytona started acting humble. You know it's bad when even the GMT looks like it's ready to apologize for its resale value. Rolex didn't say a word, of course. That silence, loud. The myth of manufactured scarcity is suddenly looking more like a pricing spreadsheet in disguise. For years, Rolex played the long game, drip-feeding inventory, letting hype do the heavy lifting, and watching the market froth. But one leak, and now we're seeing what happens when prestige meets the undo button. Let's be real, the Emperor's still wearing a watch, but we're all squinting to see if it's really worth the sticker. What the China leak really exposed and why Rolex is sweating. Rolex just got exposed like a magician caught with a trick deck. In early 2025, a leak from one of their Chinese suppliers spilled everything. Production costs, pricing schemes, even who's really making the magic behind the curtain. And let's just say, when your luxury secrets hit Weibo and X before you've had your morning espresso, it's not a good look. Turns out that $12,000 Submariner might have cost Rolex about as much as a fancy office chair. The files showed what skeptics have whispered for years. Rolex is stacking margins like Jenga blocks. Stainless steel subs and date justs were clocking in at $1,200 to $1,500 to produce, while retailing for 10 times that. And in China, where watches are taxed like luxury sins and worn like status armor, people were not amused. When your flex costs more than your rent and turns out to be 85% markup, it hits different. And then came the real kicker. Rolex's controlled scarcity wasn't just a happy coincidence, it was the whole play. They've been strategically bottlenecking supply to keep demand foaming at the mouth. Add in a little loophole magic, where Swiss-made only needs 60% of costs, not parts, to happen in Switzerland. And boom, you've got a Swiss watch with a Chinese engine and a Swiss sticker. Swiss enough to pass customs, but not enough to pass the vibe check. Chinese consumers, already cooling on flashy spending, weren't having it. Social media turned hostile fast, with posts dragging Rolex for price gouging and exploiting loyal fans. And just to spice it up, the government started sniffing around, weighing investigations like they were picking dim sum off a cart. Nothing sends a luxury brand into panic mode like a trending hashtag and a government memo in the same week. So, Rolex caved, sort of. In a rare plot twist, they dropped prices in China and other key markets. No grand statement, no humble pie, just quiet markdowns from a brand that usually treats discounts like they're contagious. Because nothing says we're still in control like silently slashing prices after your receipts go viral. Quick pause, hit subscribe and stay sharp with Opulent Oasis. We spill the tea so your wrist stays classy. Now back to the mess. Which models are actually dropping in price? Yep, Rolex finally hit the brakes, and not in a subtle way. Mid-2025 brought real, actual price cuts to their most untouchable models, the Submariner, GMT-Master 2, and Explorer. That's right, Rolex, the brand that usually raises prices like it's a seasonal sport, just pulled a U-turn. Basically, the brand that invented the waiting list just rang up its own discount. Let's start with the Submariner 1-24060, aka the dive watch that launched 1,000 flexes, 41mm of oyster steel, ceramic bezel, no date, and the caliber 3-230 under the hood with 70 hours of power reserve. Water resistant to 300 meters, but clearly not leak-proof when it comes to pricing secrets. Retail used to hover around $10,200. Now, think high $8,000 to low $9,000. When your sub starts sinking in price, you know the waves are real. Next up, the GMT-Master 2 126710 BLRO, better known as the Pepsi. 40mm case, dual-time functionality, Jubilee bracelet, and the flashiest bezel in the lineup. This one dropped from about $10,700 to around $9,100, or lower if resellers are feeling spicy. Once the king of airport lounges, now just trying to make it past duty-free. The Pepsi's still bubbly, just now with a happy hour price tag. Then there's the Explorer 112470, clean, classic, no nonsense. 36mm case, matte black dial, no date, and the caliber 3.230 keeping it honest. Originally over $7,000 retail, now circling the $6,000 range. It's the quiet confidence watch that didn't ask for drama but got dragged into it anyway. Rolex tried to frame the price drops as a market-responsive strategy, which is PR speak for we're sweating, but can't say it out loud. For a brand that's built its reputation on never flinching, this was basically a blink in slow motion. It's like seeing your strictest teacher suddenly offer extra credit. You know something went down. Their statement hit all the usual notes: value, integrity, customer experience, without ever acknowledging the actual reason behind it. That massive leak exposing how much these watches really cost to make. Meanwhile, Rolex lawyers were busy firing off cease and desists like it was a sport, trying to mop up the internet. Spoiler, the internet doesn't mop. To distract from the chaos, Rolex fired up its marketing engine, heritage reels, tearjerker craftsmanship videos, and just enough philanthropy to soften the blow. The goal: get people back to thinking about Rolex as timeless, not trending. Nothing says "we're totally fine" like a slow zoom on a loop and some dramatic harp music. But here's the truth: the leak didn't just ding Rolex, it cracked the whole luxury facade. When people saw the difference between cost and retail, the value proposition started looking questionable. And now, with brands like Patek, Omega, and indie players offering less drama and more transparency, the crown's looking a little wobbly. Turns out, limited edition feels less special when your buddy just bought one on discount. And then there's China, Rolex's golden goose now flapping in a different direction. Between an economic slowdown, changing values, and social media backlash, Chinese buyers aren't playing along like they used to. The message? Stop treating us like walking margins. And let's not forget the artificial scarcity mess. The leak confirmed Rolex has been drip-feeding supply to pump up demand, and while that trick worked for years, now it just feels staged. Once people stop believing the hype, even exclusivity loses its shine. When everyone's lucky to get the same thing, it stops feeling lucky. It starts feeling like a game. The fallout hit the grey market hardest. Dealers who bought high are now trying to sell low, flooding resale sites with discounted stock. Watches that once commanded 50% over retail are now selling for, wait for it, retail. The horror. So yeah, the markdowns aren't just about saving face. They mark a real turning point. Rolex flinched, and the luxury world took notes. The curtain's been pulled back, and now everyone's watching. What comes next? Is this a full-on luxury watch crash, or just a temporary market correction? The crown's still on, but it's definitely tilted. Rolex used to be the no-brainer of luxury watch investments. Buy it, wear it, flip it, profit. But with the China leak blowing up the illusion of scarcity, markdowns hitting retail, and resale prices sliding, even seasoned collectors are starting to sweat. When Rolex flippers start acting like day traders, you know the vibes have shifted. Some folks are offloading their collections before values dip further, while others are holding their breath and their Daytonas. The buy now crowd is thrilled, sure, but the Rolex always goes up narrative just took a hit. Turns out, stainless steel isn't as bulletproof as the marketing made it seem. So is it a crash? Not quite. But it's not a shrug either, it's a wake-up call. The game's changing, and Rolex might need more than legacy to stay king of the hill. So, what's the vibe? Smart time to buy, or has the crown lost its shine? Would you still flex a sub now that you know it costs less than your iPhone to... Drop your thoughts below. We're all ears and mildly judgmental. And hey, if you like your watch news with a side of truth serum, like, subscribe to Opulent Oasis and binge the rest. We've got more receipts than a reseller in panic mode. Catch you in the next one.